A little over a week ago, a gorgeous bundle of white fluff emerged for its first photo opportunity in front of an adoring nation. The cub, it is unclear what it is, yet is the first polar bear born in Britain for 25 years and, as a new Channel 4 documentary shows, it has been quite a tortuous journey. Polar bear pregnancy is a tricky affair, but zoos are determined to learn more as the polar ice caps melt and food grows scarce. The number of wild bears is decreasing. Their environment is disappearing under their feet, says Douglas Richardson of the Highland Wildlife Park in Kincraig, Scotland, where the cub was born, and it's likely to see them vanishing in some regions. Victoria, the 22-year-old mother, was brought to the park to mate after having successfully given birth at a Denmark zoo. The first pregnancy attempt in Scotland started in the spring of 2016 with the introduction of Arctos, a now 9-year-old male. He was immediately taken by Victoria, making strange noises, the polar equivalent of, "Well, you're pretty." While Victoria wafted her scent in his direction, all went swimmingly when, after 4 days of flirting, they were allowed into the same enclosure, and they mated a lot. In the Arctic wilderness, pairings last just a few days. So after a brief encounter the pair were separated. The signs of success were good. Victoria's appetite increased, and within a few months she had piled on 200 kilograms, 440 pounds. Polar bear mums must gain enough weight during autumn for their pregnancy to succeed. The fertilized eggs don't develop for a few months and only implant in the womb if the mother has enough fat to nourish her cub after birth around 4 months later while she fasts. There was no way to know for sure if Victoria was pregnant. Newborn polar bears are the size of guinea pigs, so there is no bump, but she certainly looked bigger. In the wild, female bears build complex dens under the snow to keep their cubs warm. The zoo created a wooden den only for Victoria to reject it. Once they made it a little larger, though, she was happy and spent most of her time in there, sleeping. The cameras were waiting. The zookeepers expected to hear the newborns cry, and the clock ticked as the normal time for a polar bear to give birth rapidly disappeared. Nothing happened, something the keepers are still struggling to understand, but next spring they introduced the pair again and hoped for the best. There were fewer signs of pregnancy after this second meeting, but the cameras were still set up in preparation. Unfortunately, Victoria kicked over the one in her den and vision was lost. Then last year, on December 18th, Victoria's zookeeper Vicky Luckin heard the noise she was waiting for. "I couldn't see her, and that was a bit unusual, because she's normally out waiting for us when we arrive," she recalls. "I didn't think any more about it, but I went closer and I heard what sounded like a human baby. I know what polar bear cubs sound like because I've listened and listened to them in the hope of hearing one for real. And I managed to get a recording. I can't tell you how much I didn't think it was going to happen, so it was one of the most exciting moments of my zookeeping career." Just under 3 months later, the little cub the zoo had worked so hard to produce made its debut appearance. It will never know how much it was anticipated, but it was certainly worth the wait. Britain's polar bear cub is on tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Channel 4.
Tell me where the freaks at.